So I'm going to do a real special video here today for my YouTube channel. These just came in at September 25th, 2020. Athearn just released their latest run of ALCO 4884 steam locomotives, also known as the Big Boy. This particular one is the Great Race to Promontory version, so we're going to go ahead and do an unboxing, go through some of the prototype history, and we'll go ahead and run through tests of the functions and see how it runs. So I have not had this locomotive open yet, so it comes in this outer bag, but then you can also see here's what the end looks like. So they do have several different versions of this. They have an excursion version. This is the Race to Promontory version. We'll go through the unboxing here, and then I'll talk about a little bit about the prototype history and then what we were able to see with 4014 during the summer of 2019 as I did the Great Race across the Midwest. So right out of the get-go, typical Athearn packaging. Take a look at that. Crazy amazing. Here is the manual. So a lot of detail about the prototype, some of the specifics about the class, road number, the builder, parts list, more parts list, more parts list. Here are the functions. Give you a good look at that here. Bunch of CVs you can change. More CVs. Baggy of extras here. Looks like it has some couplers. Pull the tender out first, see what we got going on here. So here's the oil tender. Set this off to the side. Pulls the locomotive out. Be real careful here. Take a look at that. So we'll just take a quick look at everything here. And this is the first time I've had it out of the package, so I'm just sort of admiring it. So the Race to Promontory version, this was when they just got the locomotive restored after reacquiring it from California. So what makes this version a little bit different than some of the other versions, there's a more shiny appearance on the boiler because it's basically fresh, brand new out of the shop. Again, this locomotive, not prototypically correct from when it was run back in the 1940s. This was converted over to an oil burner instead of a coal burner, so this is correct for the 2019 Promontory version. It has an oil tender. Just really pretty spectacular. You can see front trucks move. The rear trucks do have some turn to them. Give it a little bit of a slide here. So First impressions out of the box are really, really impressive. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the prototype 4014. While I'm doing this, I'm going to show some pictures. We were able to track this locomotive in July 2019 when it was going through Iowa as part of Union Pacific's Great Race Across the Midwest tour. We started out in Cedar Rapids and we tracked it for about a half a day up until it got to Marshalltown and did a stop around lunchtime in Marshalltown, then it continued on to Des Moines. The prototype 4014 was actually built in 1941 by the American Locomotive Company, or we all call it ALCO. It remained in service until about 1959 when Union Pacific was going through its steam to diesel transition. It was donated to the Railway and Locomotive Historical Society in 1961, and it was on display at the Fairplex at the Rail Giants Train Museum in Pomona until 2013 when Union Pacific reacquired it. Originally this was built as a coal burning unit, and as I already mentioned, when they restored the locomotive it was converted over to an oil burning unit, which one of the other big boys was actually converted back in the 1950s when it was undergone rebuild. Big boy locomotives were predominantly used out in the western states, predominantly Wyoming. They needed locomotives with power to be able to navigate through the mountains, and the big boys were commissioned to be able to do that. So ordinarily we probably would not have seen big boys traversing across the flat countryside, you know, here in the Midwest. So it's pretty special that they were able to bring this out, run it across the Midwest last summer during their tour. Big boy locomotive was restored in the from 2013. It got purchased back from the Rail Giants Train Museum. Ended up traveling as a dead unit up to the Union Pacific shops in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it undergone multiple years of restoration, and it finally was able to come back to life and run on its own power for the first time in about 60 years in early 2019, and it was part of the Union Pacific's 150th anniversary of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, or where the Golden Spike was driven out in Promontory, Utah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the features that we have on here and just sort of go through what Athearn has done with this particular locomotive. I'm going to point out some of the highlights. I'm not going to go through every single detail. But first and foremost, that we have right on here, we have the pile headlight, and these are LEDs on this. Cast iron steel pilot. We have our air cooling pipes, which are kind of down underneath the headlight area there. We have Adams and Westlake marker lights, which are right here underneath the number boards. We have the number boards, obviously the bell, two exhaust stacks. Can barely see it, but right here is the whistle, and then we have, I'm going to slide this just a little bit here. You can see the detail on the trucks. Have all these steam delivery pipes down here. So going a little bit further, here's the sand dome. And obviously there's sanding tubes within the chassis. Here's the steam dome. Safety valves, this is prototypically correct. There are 3 on the engineer side, 2 on the fireman side. Another sand dome up here. Piston valve. Certainly all the gears and the levers. So we're still looking at the fireman side. Here's the pile turbo generator. Roof vent up here. See if it's operating. It sure is. So the roof vent opens up. Just a lot of super detail on this locomotive. We'll take a look at the engineer side. And starting back here at the cab, we obviously have some safety valves. Again, more of the steam delivery pipes. You can see the detail in the down here in the wheels. It has the sanding hose lines. Just a really, really unbelievable model. Let's scroll up towards the front here a little bit. So Athearn has done a spectacular job on these. The modeling is just intense, and the amount of details, the separately applied details on here are just really, really remarkable. I wanted to zoom in a little bit. So here's what I was talking about. Here's the whistle right here, the brass colored whistle right behind the smokestacks. Again, we got the number boards and just a lot of detail in this locomotive. Okay, so you can see I got this on my test track here. So I'm going to go ahead and apply track power, and it should run through its startup sequence right from the time I apply track power. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and run through the functions real quick. F0 is the headlight. Now listen, you'll hear the generator kick in. F1 is the bell. F2 is the whistle. F3 is the short whistle. F4 are the cylinder cocks. F5 says lighting effect, but I'm not 100% sure what that's doing. F6 is also function to a lighting effect. I don't see the marker lights turn on, so they must not be lit. F7 is a dimmer, so you should see the headlight dim. F8 mutes. F9 is half volume. I already have it on half volume because it does come down pretty loud. F10 is the blowdown. F11 is brake release, or brake set, brake release. F12 is brake select. F13 is your coupler. F14 is a half speed or momentum overdrive. F15 are the wheel chains. F16 is water fill. F17 is fuel loading. F18 is ash dump. F19 is wheel slip sound. F20 are the injectors. F21 are the sanding valves. F22 is cab chatter. F23 is all aboard. And then F26, F27 are cut off, basically increases the throttle or decreases the throttle. So that is an overview of the functions. Let's go ahead. I don't have a whole lot of space to run this, but let's go ahead and take this for a test spin. can see on the reverse that the light on the rear tender does light up. So thank you for watching my video. I just wanted to thank Union Pacific and all of their restoration team for restoring this model. It's a true piece of American history, and I'm glad that we're able to see an operating big boy in the 2020s. And I appreciate Athearn producing this locomotive, and I would highly recommend purchasing this particular unit if you get a chance to purchase one, because it truly is a work of art, and I'm real proud to be able to own one of these. So thanks for watching my channel. Please let me know if you have any questions.